Aloha, my fellow readers. So today I am going to be reviewing a book that I have been waiting for such a long time. I don't even know how long, like 2 years ago. I have been waiting for this book to come out, my most anticipated book for the longest I can remember, and that is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. Oh my god, okay, so I don't even know where to start with this book. So first of all, I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review for you guys in the first part of this video for those of you who haven't read this beautiful book, and if you haven't, you need to go read it now. It still feels so surreal to have this book in my hands because I've been waiting for it for so long. Just looking at it is so beautiful, the cover is amazing, and it is definitely a big book. So first off, I want to give this book 5 out of 5 stars. Of course, this book deserves way more than 5 stars. It deserves like 100,000 stars out of 5. So Lady Midnight takes place 5 years after the events of City of Heavenly Fire in the Mortal Instruments series. In City of Heavenly Fire, we are introduced to a set of a whole new characters, Julian Blackthorne, Emma Carstairs, and this whole family of shadow hunters that live in the LA Institute. So Emma and Julian are Paravatai. I say it kind of weird, that's just how I've always said it when I read the books, even though we know how to pronounce it now, I'm still just going to keep my pronunciation of it. So Emma and Julian are Paravatai. Emma lives with him and his family at the LA Institute. He has like 20 brothers and sisters. It's not even funny, but I love them all. Emma starts investigating these murders that are going on, and they all show up with the same markings that her parents did when they died all those years ago. And while they're trying to figure out what's happening on their own, they don't know the whole story, and so they are given a proposition by the fairies. The Fae are willing to give back Mark Blackthorne, Julian's brother, if they can solve the mystery of who has been doing these killings and give them back to the Fae for them to give punishment on that person. So this book is full of humor. I can't express enough how much I love Cassie's humor. She is the best at it. She creates such visual characters. Cassie has just this way of making the world come so alive in her stories. This book had such amazing imagery and descriptions that you felt like you were actually there. Though it is a really, really large book, there was great pacing, I thought, throughout it. When there isn't a fight scene or preparing for battle scene, there is still a whole bunch of other things going on that make the plot interesting, and so I thought that was one of like the main things that I loved about this book. Another thing that I loved about this book was that you get to experience a lot more about the Fae and learn more about them, because in the other novels we just kind of hear things about them that's kind of, just a subplot, but in this one it really takes center stage, and we are introduced to even more Fae characters, including a fairy prince, the leader of the Wild Hunt, which took Mark when he was very young. And of course, it wouldn't be a Cassandra Clare book without forbidden love and love triangles. Not necessarily love triangles, because in this book, it's all over the place. It's like a love hexagon, circle. These characters were so realistic, and there were just so many layers to them that I honestly, Julian is one of my most favorite characters in all of the literary world, possibly my favorite of all time. And that just shows how well Cassie's writing has come along since the very first Mortal Instruments book. Even back then, her writing is amazing. I'm rereading City of Bones right now, and I'm just, experiencing all the feels again. There are a lot of aspects in Emma that are very, very much similar to Jace, but it doesn't take away from the individuality of these characters. Emma is a badass shadow hunter who is a warrior, just like Jace, and it is really interesting to have a story about a main character who, especially in the Shadowhunter world, where the main character is already immersed in the Shadowhunter world. The Shadow world doesn't have to be laid out for you very much at all in Lady Midnight, and I definitely recommend you read all of the other 9 books before you read this one. And something that I actually didn't do, but probably should have, and I'm probably going to read this, sometime in the future, is Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, I believe it's called. I might be wrong, because I know that some plot points that are in there really do kind of connect with Lady Midnight and the plot in here. And another thing that was really great in this book is that they incorporated previous characters from the other novels. So that would also be a good reason to read the others before you read this one. Characters like Clary, Jace, Magnus, Tessa, Jem, all of our favorite characters are back in this one, but it's not really forced at reintroducing them. or the reason why they're in certain scenes. It's just supposed to be that way. So this is basically all I can say for the non-spoilery part. If you guys haven't read Lady Midnight, please stop this video and go read it before you watch it again, because I would feel so terrible if I spoiled anything for you guys, because this has happened to me. This literally happened to me with Lady Midnight, but I will get into that, you know, in a sec. So the two main things I'm going to be talking to you guys about is the characters and plot. So characters. These are some of the most well-written characters that I've ever read. Cassie, thank you for Julian Blackthorne. Thank you for Mark Blackthorne. Thank you. Oh my god. Okay, so let's start off with Julian. So Julian is Emma's Pravatai, and he is just a cinnamon roll, okay? One of the major things about Julian is his love for his family and friends, and that he will do anything for them. Anything, including run the institute and take care of his brothers and sisters like he is their parent. And he had to do all of this while he was only 12 years old, and after he had just had to kill his father in the Dark War. And just, so much stuff has happened to him that I just want him to like be happy and get his happily ever after. So Julian's character is very different from a lot of male characters that I read about, not just in Cassie's books. So even though he is also a really good badass shadow hunter, he is also very domestic and is the one who does the cooking in the house and takes care of the kids and stuff. None of this has made him any less of a shadow hunter. If anything, it has made him more driven. And one thing that I was really surprised to find out about him was the fact that he is such a good liar. He lies about so many things, but not that it's really bad. Like, he's lying for the greater good. He is lying about taking over the institute and having his uncle Arthur be the head of the institute. You have to be so like careful and conniving to make sure the Clave doesn't know anything about it. But I mean, you know, with all of this investigating going on about them, you know, investigating these murderers, I'm not even surprised that the Clave didn't know that he was doing any of this. And being this sort of liar has made him really ruthless in battle and his love for his family. And there's a quote that Kieran said at the end of the book. I can't remember for the life of me where it was. I tried to re-look it up in the book, but it was the one quote that I didn't have tagged, and that is that Kieran was wrong about him and that he has a ruthless heart. And I definitely think this is true, but that makes Julian one of the greatest characters ever. So Emma is literally the female version of Jace. They are both blonde, they are both left-handed, the parallels in this book. Their humor is very much alike, they're both really sassy. Emma even threatened to, I think, turn church into a tennis racket, which was very similar to a quote in The Mortal Instruments that I believe Jace said also to church. All of this being said, Emma can still pull off a cute floral dress from a vintage shop that she and Christina go to. I love Emma and Christina's friendship. Obviously, even they mentioned it in the book, if Emma wasn't Pravatai with Julian, I would definitely want her and Christina to be Pravatai. I actually didn't even expect to like Christina that much. In the beginning, I wasn't really sure what character she would be like. She is this independent girl who can be confrontational when she wants to, and she doesn't really take crap from anybody, but she is also this nice girl who takes care of everybody that she's around too. And at first we don't know a lot about her, but I never really suspected that she would be in on anything bad, so I never suspected her to be a part of, you know, the Guardians, you know, followers, any of that. Okay, so I think I honestly have ship radar, or like OTP radar, because as soon as Mark was at the Institute, okay, pause, Mark is back, okay? I didn't even expect it that soon. I didn't even actually read the synopsis on the inside of the cover until I was about to start reading it. I don't know why. And I read it and I was like, oh, Mark is going to be in it. But then as I was reading, I completely forgot that he was even going to be a part of this plot. And so I'm so happy that they brought him in the early on in the book. I thought he was like going to be this undercover fairy for them and sabotage the whole thing because he didn't believe that it was his real family. But the only person that he would let in is Christina. Is this the start of the ship? And I was right. But I did not expect Kieran and Mark. Oh my god. That was actually one of the bigger plot twists in this book for me, but I loved it too. And I found myself also shipping him and Kieran. But even when Kieran kind of betrayed him in the end, I still really have sympathy for him, and I actually really like him as a character. I feel like both of these two characters, Mark and Kieran, had major character development throughout the entire story, because at first we think Kieran is this cold-hearted fairy, which he sort of is, but his soft spot is Mark, and we get to see sort of some of that in the flashbacks of Mark and the Wild Hunt, which I really enjoyed, because normally I don't like flashbacks, but in this book the flashbacks were amazing and very appropriate for the storyline. But after all of this stuff went down, Kieran is basically dead to Mark, and I'm just like, oh, my baby, why? I really like Kieran. I hope he comes back in the next two books, because I really want to see more of his character. Even when we first saw him in the Sanctuary of the Institute. And Mark, okay, my cinnamon roll. So I felt for his family when he came back, because when you finally got your brother back, but he doesn't like you. I mean, he's scared of you. Like, how must that feel? I'm an only child, so I wouldn't even like comprehend how that would feel. He is so literal and doesn't know anything about the mundane world, or even really the Shadowhunter world anymore. And I just love so many scenes with him in it. His semi-formal outfit with him just in a fur coat, nothing else. That was a good scene. I could just imagine that. I actually even sketched out a picture from that scene. Okay, so now getting into more of the plot. I was spoiled for this book. I was in shock when it happened. Okay, so I was on Instagram posting cute fan art of Julian and Emma. I hadn't finished the book yet. I was a little more than halfway done. So clearly I had no idea who the Guardian was, when somebody, not a minute later after I post that picture, comments in all caps, the biggest spoiler of the book, Malcolm is the killer and he killed Emma's parents. Why? In the caption I posted, I said, please do not post spoilers in the comments, because it is only a week after the release date and people haven't finished this book yet. And then somehow that person who commented the spoiler looked in my bio and found my Parapetize account and went on her account and wrote the same thing and spoiled it for her too, and a few other people who read the comment as well. So I don't even know what to say to people who spoil things on purpose. So with this poem with Annabelle Lee and this castle surrounded by thorns, that's literally the mural in Julian's room. I mean, I don't know how many people, if it was like a really big thing that people noticed or not, but I just thought that was really interesting. That a lot of these parallels between the Parapetize bond between Emma and Julian and this poem, and the love that was kind of explained in the poem also reminded me of them as well. So I don't know if that's going to have a bigger, part in the later books, or if it was just for this book alone. Since Malcolm is supposedly dead, I don't agree with that. Once you see a body, you can go ahead and say that they're dead. But if there is no body, you don't know for sure. The wards that he put up, the stuff he could have put up, he could have done that on purpose to make it look like he was dead. Plus, he's a warlock, so he can do all sorts of kinds of things to save himself. He could probably make a portal in the water to get himself out and to heal him too. Why did you come and befriend these people? You could have done it a different way. You didn't need to be their friends. Let's talk about the whip scene. Even though it is one of the worst scenes in the book, it is actually one of my favorites. Probably the favorite, because it shows the amount of love that these characters have for each other and are willing to put their own lives at stake for them. And I don't know if that makes me like a terrible person for liking a scene where people are being whipped, but then we have Julian taking the lashes for Mark. I knew that was going to happen. As I was reading, I was like, oh god, okay, Julian is either going to take the whips or Emma is going to take them. I knew it was going to happen. With those kind of scenes, you know it's going to happen. But it didn't make it any less easier to read. I feel like Julian, it was harder for him to see her on the ground, bloodied, thinking she was dead, than actually taking the lashes himself. And that also reaffirms this idea that that Emma and Julian's parapetite bond is something different than others. So we finally figure out why you're not allowed to fall in love with your parapetite. And it's because of this curse. This curse that just gives you more power, though. Jem, you are also ruining my ship, the same as Livy. And then he even said the line about how it's easier to make somebody not love you than to make your feelings go away. So basically, here's Emma taking advice from one of her ancestors. This is the wrong time to do that, Emma. And then she goes and breaks Julian's heart. It's even worse than after the beach scene when Julian said that he didn't love her. But obviously we knew he did, and then finally they got together and they were all talking about, you know, running away and how they were going to work this out and how they were going to keep it from everybody else around them, and that they could do this. They believed that they could do it, and then Emma goes and literally breaks his heart. And then the one person that Julian could not handle her with, she goes to him, Mark, and asks him to pretend to be dating her. Cassie, this is the first book! How could it get any worse in the other two? And then what is Christina gonna think? Yes, she's with Perfect Diego, but she just kissed him. Mark doesn't know the whole story. She could regret it afterwards. She could be like, I'm sorry, but I like Mark more. I need to see this thing through. The Perfect Diego joke. I love how they keep it running. Perfect Diego literally is perfect, though. At first, I was like, who is this dude? Do not come in and break up my ship between Christina and Mark. But as we got to know him a little more, I mean, we still don't really know a lot about him, but enough to know that he is a good guy, hopefully. He went to the Shalamonts. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I've only heard it out loud a couple of times, and I haven't read that story either, so I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but he is basically this elite warrior from this academy of Shadowhunters that Ty actually wants to go to. Ty, I can't believe I forgot. Ty. Okay, I'm going to take a moment to switch over to Ty, because he is honestly too precious for this world. He has also been ranked as one of my favorite characters in this story. Ty has many quirks and things that he has to do to make himself feel comfortable in situations, and Julian does a great job of telling him that it's just normal, it's just his way of doing things, and I really love that about it, because there's so much like diversity in this story that Cassie has given us. We have bisexual characters, we have gay characters, we have characters who are a little different than the other people in their lives. I really hope that we get to see a lot more of Ty and get more into depth about how he feels about things and like why he wants to go to the Shalamonts and just why he won't want to be parapetite with Livy, even though you're not really allowed to have one when you go to that school. But I just want to know more about him. He is honestly one of the most interesting characters in this story, and so I hope we get to read a lot more about him. Cassie, please. Sizzy wedding! Simon and Izzy are engaged, and we get to have the short story at the end about their engagement party, and Simon! And then Malik with their two children, Raphael and Max. But one thing that I really am really dreading, I'm scared, and I really hope Cassandra Clare, you know, tells us more about this. I know she will probably, but she needs to tell us more about at the end of that short story when Clary and Jace are in the closet or whatever they're in, making out, and then Jace asks her to marry him. But they're interrupted by Magnus, of course. One of the last lines, she says that she's dreading answering him. And then when she's asked by Isabel if they would do like a double wedding, Clary has unease in her. And I'm just like, what is going on? Is this the starting of something else? Like another problem with Clace? I just want them to be happy, but so I don't know what's going on with that, but hopefully Cassie will elaborate in the next book. But another Clace scene that I really loved was the flashback in Idris when Emma is spying on them and they're looking at constellations of pancakes. Jace, I love you. You gotta love him. Other than the love triangle between Kieran, Mark, and Christina, the other big plot twist, because I was spoiled for the main plot twist, was Christopher Herondale. He sends the 911 text to Emma, and she shows up, and Jem and Tessa are with her. I'm like, why are you back in the story? What's going on? Like, I love it, but why are you here? And then I completely forgot about their mission on trying to find what they were looking for. And I didn't really know what it was going to be. I didn't know it was going to be a person. But then it turns out that Christopher Herondale is in LA, the son of Johnny Rook. Kit? Who is this kid? It starts out in the shadow market with this kid named Kit narrating about him and his father, Johnny Rook, who are mundanes with the sight. And I'm just like, who are you? What do you have to do with the plot? I know that Johnny Rook is kind of like a minor, person that they need to talk to when they need to find stuff out. Emma goes to his house to get information, and then I love how Ty sneaks off with them in the car. I literally knew somebody was going to tag along, and it turned out to be Ty. Headcanon that in the next book, they're going to become BFFs, they're going to become maybe Pravatai in the future, and then Livy is going to end up with Kit, aka Christopher. I really hope that happens. So I was watching another Lady Midnight review, and a thought occurred to me from something that they said. She mentioned that Johnny Rook his species was unknown, and it is explained in the book that he is sort of like a warlock because he has these powers, I guess. And I was like, it hit me. What if he and his Parabatai, since his son is Christopher Herondale and he is a Shadowhunter and Shadowhunter blood rings true, then Johnny Rook is a Shadowhunter. What if he fell in love with his Parabatai, and that's why he has these powers, and that's why he was on the run and hiding his son? Because he said that his son is his greatest secret, and I just thought he said that the Shadowhunters were recruiting anybody with the sight who's about the age of like 16 or so. But what if he has this power, this magic, well, not anymore because he's dead, but what if he went into hiding because him and his Parabatai fell in love and had a kid, and he has this power? Just think about that. So the last thing that I want to talk about is that, of course, Cassie Clare, she has no problem with killing off a sweet little kid like Max, okay? I am so scared that there's a lot of Blackthorn children, okay? Tavi was almost sacrificed. I can't handle if one of them dies. Ugh. This is one of the things that makes me dread the next book in the series, but makes me want to read it even more. But Cassie, if you do that, I'm gonna be so mad at you. I did the best I could with this review. It's my first review, but I honestly don't think I could ever do this book justice. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time. Bye!